welcome to my channel Anupma Biology Classes. This is the last video in the series of reproduction. Today's video we will discuss about the reproductive health, and this video is from chapter 4 part 7 of CBSE class 12th. So here we will know about all the aspects and problems related to reproduction. Now the first thing here we will have to know that what is the reproductive health. So, reproductive health is a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity in all matters relating to the reproductive system and to its function and process. The term reproductive health refers to healthy reproductive organs with normal functions. A society can only be termed as reproductively healthy if the people have physically and functionally normal reproductive organs, as well as normal emotional and behavioral interactions among them in all sex-related aspects. So, the sexual and reproductive health includes preventing and treating sexually transmitted infections like AIDS, and in addition, reproductive health care can bring patients into the healthcare system, encouraging diagnosis and the treatment of other diseases and conditions. Now, we will see the problem and strategies related to the reproductive health. So, there are some common problems or concerns associated with the reproductive health are, first one, that is the overpopulation, then the awareness about the reproduction related aspects, then sex education, knowledge about birth control methods and care of mother and child, awareness about social evils, deformities, sexually transmitted diseases, early marriage before attaining the puberty, and increased mortality rate of both mother and infants. So, the listed here are few strategies followed to improve reproductive health, and the introduction of sex education is one of the steps taken by the government which aims to create awareness among the adolescents about safe sexual practices. When an adolescent becomes eligible to reproduce, it is essential to inform them about the consequence of unsafe sexual practices and early pregnancies. It is achieved by the implementation of National Adolescent Education Program at various schools from class 9th to 12th. People in a marriageable group are educated all about infertility, birth control methods, pregnancy, post-child birth care of the baby and mother, etc. It is also essential to provide proper medical facilities to deal with obstacles like infertility and other reproductive difficulties. So, there are a few evil practices related to reproduction that still plague our society. Female infanticide is one such example. In order to prevent this crime, a legal ban has been put on amniocentesis test. Now, here the maternity and child health and family planning. So, maternity and child health, in short you can say MHC. The health centers give necessary information, guidance and assistance to the mothers before and after delivery so that they may properly look after themselves and the infants. The health centers also ensure safe delivery of infant and postnatal care. The health centers also provide for immunization of infants and prophylaxis against anemia and vitamin deficiency. The health centers also arrange for the milk feeding programs. The health centers train the midwives also to safely handle delivery of infants. The health centers educate the newly wedded couples about the advantage of small families and spacing between successive births. So, the family planning has been given a high priority since the fourth plan in order to control the fast growing population of our country. 2 children per couple is the goal here. There are some importance if we do family planning, like because of the family planning, we can end hunger and poverty, increase education, empower women, improve infant health, improve maternal health, decrease disease like AIDS, save the environment and support partnership. Now, the human population explosion. and here it refers to the number of people that live in an area. It is a major issue for developing countries. The high rate of human population growth is termed as population explosion. The explosion phase of the human population is started around 1750. If the rate of increase is not checked, it may reach to 8.4 billion by the year 2025 and 11.20 billion by the year 2100. So, because of these problems created associated with the overpopulation include the increased demand for the resources such as fresh water and food, starvation and malnutrition, consumption of the natural resources like fuel faster than the rate of regeneration, and a deterioration in the living condition. After this, what are the reasons for the growth of human population? And here there are two factors in which the first one is primary factors. And in this there are two cases like the decrease in the death rate and increase in longevity. So the human population explosion is largely a result of decrease in death rate. There are number of factors that have contributed to the decline in death rate and the consequent increase in human population. These factors are secondary factors, in which the first one is control of disease, control of communicable disease such as plague, cholera, etc., as well as decline in the incidence of dread disease like tuberculosis, malaria have reduced the death rate and increased the average human age. Next is advancement in agriculture. Improved agricultural techniques as well as development of high-yielding, disease-resistant varieties have increased food production for rising human population. Next is storage facilities. Better storage facilities have helped in making food available to human population all the year round. Next is better transport. Advancement in the modern transport system has helped to carry food from the surplus region to the scarcity regions. This eliminates famines. Next is spread of education. Government efforts to provide education to all by implementing various schemes and opening schools and colleges even in village have helped in removal of misbeliefs. Next is government effort. Number of steps taken up by the government such as introduction of public distribution system, checking of hoardings and smuggling of grains, maintenance of reserve stocks, etc. have ensured food supply to all. Next is protection from natural risk. Advancement in science had led people to live better and protected life. And the last is improvement in medical facilities have also helped in reducing death rate. Now, here you can see that is population trend in the world. And here the growth of human population in different countries is variable. So on this basis there are two types of countries. First one is developed countries and the second is developing or undeveloped countries. Now here you can see the estimated population of different nations and how can it increase year by year. Now, in these two countries, the first that is developed countries include USA, Canada, European countries, Australia, New Zealand, Japan and Russia have a low rate of population growth, high per capita income and better living standards. Why is it possible? Because in these countries, population education in schools, higher marriageable age like 25 years or more, ready for acceptability of small family norms and family planning techniques, fewer religious taboos on birth control, economic well-being and liking for high standards of life. While in case of developing countries includes like Asia, Africa and Latin America have relatively high rate of population growth, low per capita income and poor life standards. About 2/3 of the world population is presenting in developing or underdeveloped countries and the population growth rate is 2.14 in India and 376% in Mexico. Now, the population trends in India. India is the most populous country in the world next to China. As per statistics, India has only 2.42% of the world's land area but supports over 15.5% of the world's population. Now, the sex ratio. What is sex ratio? Sex ratio is defined as the number of females per 1,000 males in a country or state. Sex composition is affected by three factors, in which the first one is differentials in the male-female ratio at birth. Second is differentials in mortality conditions of male and females. And the last is sex selective migration. So, in India, sex ratio is 933 females per 1000 males. In Kerala, there are 1058 females per 1000 males, which is the highest sex ratio among the states. In Daman and Diu, there are 709 females as 1000 males, and in Haryana, there are 861 females as per 1000 males. So, this is the lowest sex ratio among the states. Now, literacy rate. What is literacy rate? Literacy rate means any person can read and write with understanding in any language is recorded. This is the literacy rate, and it is 76.40% for the males and 54.16% for the females. Literacy rate is highest in Kerala and the lowest in Bihar. Now, the consequence of overpopulation. And here you can see there are many aspects, like first one, that is the socio-economic problems, in which first one, that is the food. Overpopulation has resulted in large families, and these large families with limited means are unable to provide balanced diet to their children. As a result, the latter suffer from malnutrition and grow into less fit members of the society. Next is space. To accommodate growing population, more cities are coming up. This has created pressure on agriculture lands and forest. Clearing above the forest for agriculture and habitation has further caused problems like soil erosion and flood. Next is employment, education and medical aid. Overpopulation has resulted in large-scale unemployment, lowering of education standards, inability of afford higher educations to all the children, as well as unavailability of modern medical facilities to all. And the last is essential goods and poverty. It leads to shortage of essential goods, thereby resulting in hike in their prices. Now, the energy crisis. Increase in population has created greater demand for the energy fuel, that is wood, fossil fuels and electricity. So, the rapid industrialization and urbanization have added to the problem, and alternative sources of energy are being tapped to lessen the crisis. Next is eco-degradation. So, overpopulation causes eco-degradation in many ways, in which the first one is pollution. Rise in pollution has caused pollution of environment like the water, air and land. Next is sanitation. It is difficult to maintain sanitation in congested area, as in evident from urban slums. And the last is deforestation. Because of large-scale deforestation, soil erosion has decreased, and flood and drought have spoiled valuable land. So, the overpopulation may cause mental tension, rise in heart disease, ill health and misery. Now, how can we control the population? So here, you can control the population, that is reduction in the birth rate, in the only practicable and direct method, in which the first one is education. Educational institution and mass media are the means by which people can be educated about the consequence of the overpopulation and advantage of a small family. Next is increasing marriageable age. At present, marriageable age is 18 years for females and 21 years for males. If the marriageable age is reasonably increased, it can definitely help to check population growth. And next is family planning. So, the government of India is an attempt to check high birth rate started voluntary approach towards birth control measures, and these programs initially failed in view of people's traditional resistance to birth control measures. Now, birth control. So, what is birth control? The regulation of conception by preventive methods or devices to limit the number of offspring is called birth control. The birth control methods which deliberately prevent fertilization are referred to as contraception. Contraceptive methods act by first, that is preventing sperm motility, preventing ovulation, and preventing implantation of early embryo in the uterus. So, now the methods of contraceptive, in which you can see here a wide range of contraceptive methods are presently available, which are broadly grouped into three main types, in which the first one is temporary method, second is permanent method, and the last is medical termination of pregnancy. So the first one, that is the temporary methods, which includes natural methods, barrier methods, physiological devices, injections or implants, and abstinence. So from the next slide we will see each and every part of birth control in detail. In temporary method, there is the first, that is the natural method of birth control, in which there are many types. First one, that is the safe period. A week before and a week after menses is considered the safe period for the sexual intercourse, and this idea is based on following facts. That is, ovulation occurs on about the 14th day of the menstruation. Ovum survives for about 1 to 2 days. Sperms remains alive for about 3 days. So this method is also called natural family planning and periodic or temporary abstinence, because it requires refraining from sexual intercourse when conception is most likely, that is a few days before and a few days after ovulation. So this method can reduce the chances of pregnancy by about 80%, and the couples avoid or abstain from coitus from day 10 to 17 of the menstrual cycle, when ovulation could be expected. Now, the second method of birth control, that is the coitus interruptus, and it involves withdrawal of the penis from the vagina by the male before ejaculation, so that semen is not deposited in the vagina and there is no fertilization. This is the oldest method, but there are some drawbacks. Male produces some lubricating fluids from his Copper's gland before ejaculation, which contains many sperms, and a lapse in timing or willpower may result in late withdrawal and hence pregnancy occur. And the third is, that is lactational amenorrhea or absence of menstruation. It is based on the fact that ovulation and therefore the menstrual cycle do not occur during the period of intense lactation following childbirth. As a result, the chances of conception are almost nil as long as the mother lactates fully. This method is considered effective only up to a maximum period of 6 months following parturition and has no side effect. So these all are the natural method of birth control. Now, the second temporary method is barrier method. And in these methods, ovum and sperms are prevented from coming closer with the help of barrier so that the fertilization doesn't occur, and these methods are available for both male and female. In which the first one, that is the chemical means, that is spermicides. Foam, tablets, jellies, paste, and creams, if introduced into the vagina before sexual intercourse, adhere to the mucous membrane and immobilize and kills the sperm. These contains spermicides such as lactic acid, citric acid, boric acid, potassium permanganate, and zinc sulfate. Now, the second, that is the mechanical means, and these are of three types, in which the first one is, that is condom. It is a thin sheath usually made of rubber or latex to cover the erect penis in male, and female also use condoms to cover vagina and cervix to prevent ovum and spermatozoa from coming closer during coitus so that fertilization doesn't occur. Female condoms are called femidoms. Here you can see male condom and the female condom. It should be used regularly and put on before starting coitus activity. Otherwise, sperm containing lubricating fluid may be left in the vagina. It is also safeguard against infection of AIDS and sexual disease. This can be self-inserted and thereby provide privacy to the user. Now, second, that is the diaphragms, cervical caps, and vaults. These are the dome-shaped rubber plastic latex covers that are fitted on the cervix in the female's vagina before coitus and to check the entry of sperms into the uterus. These must be kept fitted for at least 6 hours after sexual intercourse, and these devices prevent fertilization by blocking the entry of sperm through the cervix. In which the first one, that is the diaphragm. Diaphragm is a soft cup-shaped rubber devices being used by the woman to cover entrance to the uterus. Second is cervical caps. It is the miniature diaphragm that covers the cervix. So, in this picture you can see the position of cervical cap, and it can remain in position longer than the diaphragm and is smeared with a spermicide before use, and it is considered effective for preventing the sperms from reaching the egg. Now the vaults, and these are hemispheric dome-shaped rubbers or plastic caps with a thin rim. Now third is, that is the intrauterine device, and these devices are plastic or metal objects placed in the uterus of the female by a doctor. They are of different types. Like first one, that is the medicated IUDs, that is lips loop. Second is copper releasing IUDs, that is CUT or CU7, multi-load 375, or hormone releasing IUDs, that is progesterone LNG20. So these are the miniature, and it means IUDs, it increase phagocytosis of spermatozoa within the uterus, and copper ion released by some IUDs suppress motility of the sperms as well as their fertility capacity. Now, the drawbacks of IUDs include their spontaneous expulsion even without the woman's knowledge, and occasional hemorrhage, perforation of uterus, tubal pregnancy, and chance of infection. So, the use of mechanical contraceptives have pregnancy rate less than 10%. Now, the physiological devices, and you can also say that oral contraceptive pills or oral devices. These are used in the form of tablets and therefore are commonly called oral contraceptive pills. Birth control pills check ovulation in female by inhibiting the secretion of FSH and LH that are necessary for the ovulation. Now, so no eggs are released in a woman taking the pills, and conception cannot occur. And the pills are normally taken daily for a period of 21 days, starting preferably within the first 5 days of the menstrual cycle. So here there are many types of contraceptive pills, in which, like the mini pills, which contain progesterone alone, like Saheli pills, which is taken once in a week after an initial intake of twice a week dose for 3 months. Second is combined pills. A combined pill is the most commonly used birth control pill, and it contains synthetic progesterone and estrogen in doses high enough to check ovulation. And the last one, that is the emergency contraceptive pills. Nowadays options are available that can either prevent pregnancy or terminate pregnancy early or when intercourse has occurred without the use of any birth control method. Oral contraceptives have pregnancy rate less than 1%, and the pills are normally taken daily for a period of 21 days, starting preferably within the first 5 days of the menstrual cycle. Now, the injections or implants, and here in this picture you can see how the implantation occur. Certain contraceptives such as progestin, minipill or progestogen in combination with the estrogen are also used by the females as injections or implants under the skin of the upper arm. They prevent pregnancy for 3 to 4 years. Subcutaneous implantation of synthetic progesterone in a new contraception technique being employed. And implants involve minor surgical procedure for insertion and removal. So, this technique is safe, convenient, effective and long lasting, approx 5 years. Now, in this picture you can see how the progestogen implant in the body. This is a matchstick size flexible rod that is put under the skin of upper arm, and it is often called by its brand name, that is Implanon. The rod released a progestin which causes changes in the lining of the uterus and the cervical mucus to keep the sperm from joining an egg. Less often it stops the ovary from releasing eggs. So the advantage are it is effective for 3 years, and the disadvantages is may cause side effects including irregular bleeding and doesn't protect against STDs. Here the hormonal contraceptives like combined oral contraceptive pills, progestin only oral contraceptive pills, injectables and implants. So all these are the hormonal contraceptive you can use. Now the last barrier method, that is the abstinence. The best and 100% reliable way to avoid conception is to abstain from sexual intercourse. But it is an unnatural mode of birth control and seems impracticable. So some couples practice abstinence at certain times with success. So these all are the temporary method of birth control. Now the permanent method of the birth control, and it is also called surgical method. Sterilization provides a permanent and sure birth control. It is called vasectomy in male and tubectomy in case of female. So here you can see here it involves the removal of a short segment of each vas deferens in male or fallopian tube in females and tying them off remaining ends tightly with surgical thread, and these operations are minor and usually performed under local anesthesia, give very little discomfort and do not affect the sexual life. Both tubectomy and vasectomy occur by a telescopic instrument called laparoscope, which is used in the tubal ligation, and this blocks the fallopian tube. In present day, it is not most effective means of birth control. And the next, that is the birth control measures should be used with the guidance of qualified doctors, and the couples who are not getting children can also seek advice and remedy at the family planning centers. Now, the medical termination of pregnancy, that is the MTP. Intentional or voluntary termination of pregnancy before the fetus becomes viable is called medical termination of pregnancy. MTP is done to get rid of unwanted pregnancies due to causal unprotected intercourse, failure of contraceptive used during coitus, rapes, when continuation of pregnancy could pose threat to the life of either mother or fetus or both. So, MTP are considered safe during the first trimester of pregnancy, and it means up to 12 weeks of pregnancy. In India, majority of MTPs are performed illegally by unqualified quacks, and these are unsafe and may result in the death of mother. Now, what are the significance of the MTPs? It help in getting rid of unwanted pregnancies, help in getting rid of such pregnancies which may be harmful for the mother and fetus. It contribute in decreasing the human population. And the drawback is it is being misused to abort even the normal female fetus. Now, the inequality between the sexes, in which the first one, that is responsibility for the child sex. Now we know that actually father is biologically responsible for the child sex because he has two different sex chromosomes, that is X and Y. But unfortunately mother is always blamed for giving a birth to girls, and she is suffering in some cases heavily for the ignorance of the society. Second is mother's role in the family. Women play a crucial role in the continuity of the family and the human species. She nurses the fetus in her womb for about 280 days, goes through life-threatening and highly painful parturition, and after birth, she first nourishes the infant on her own milk for a few months and then feeds the baby with a spoon and also looks after him or her for a few years. Hence, biologically female is superior to men, that is play a greater role in procreation than men. The mother also serves the entire family in various ways. Next is injustice to women. Women are victims of social injustice. They are treated inferior to males even in their parents' house and generally do not get their due respect and love in their in-laws' house. They are accused for everything that goes wrong and are made to work beyond their capacity. Next is educated person's responsibility towards women. So, as an educated person, knowing the scientific basis of sex determination and women's role in procreation, you should shed prejudice and discrimination against women and become ratio and propagate equality of the sexes. You should respect women and give them their due status in society. So, this is the inequality between the sexes. Now, sexually transmitted disease, and in short you can say STDs. So what are STDs? Disease or infections which are transmitted through the sexual intercourse with infected persons are collectively called STDs. Examples like AIDS, gonorrhea, syphilis, genital herpes, chlamydiasis, genital wart, trichomoniasis, hepatitis B, etc. Now, the causative agents, that is bacteria, virus, chlamydia, protozoa, nematodes, fungi and ectoparasites. Now, what is the mode of transmission of STDs? That is sexual intercourse with infected person, sharing of injection, needles, surgical instruments, etc. within infected persons, transfusion of blood from an infected mother to the fetus. And how can we prevent it? One must avoid sex with unknown person, always use condoms during intercourse, and in case of doubt, one must consult to a qualified doctor without delay. So these are all about the sexually transmitted disease. Now, infertility. So what is infertility? All over the world, including India, a large number of couples are infertile. That is, they are unable to produce children in spite of unprotected sexual cohabitation, and this is called infertility. Infertility in couples are assisted to have children through certain special techniques which are known as assisted reproduction technologies, that is ART. So, here you can see that is infertility case can happen to anyone, women and men at any age. Now here you can see that is successive rate of IVF of infertility case are caused by the men, 1 by 8 of all couples in America suffer from infertility. 12% of the total population suffers from infertility. 6% of all married women are infertile. So talk to your doctor about in vitro fertilization to see if it is right for you. And what is the reasons why you are not getting pregnant? Because of not ovulating, male infertile, age, blocked fallopian tubes, endometriosis, or underlying medical problems. So these are the reasons. Now, the assisted reproduction technologies, in which the first one, that is the test tube baby program. This method involves in vitro fertilization, and the baby produced by conceiving in a culture dish and nursing in the uterus is called test tube baby. The success rate of technique of producing test tube babies is less than 20%. A developing embryo can be inserted in the uterus of another female provided her hormones are in the proper phase of reproductive cycle for implantation to occur. A woman who substitutes or takes the place of the real mother to nurse the embryo is called surrogate mother. Now, here you can see what is the procedure of the test tube baby. If some women normal conception is not possible because of blocked oviducts or spermicidal secretions in the vagina or low sperm count of the husband, these are also cases wherein women cannot produce ova or men cannot produce sperms. In all such cases, ovum from the wife or donor female is removed surgically after hormonal stimulation of the follicle. It is then fertilized by her husband's or donor's male sperms in a laboratory dish containing a nutrient broth. So, the zygote or early embryo is then transferred into the fallopian tube, and embryo within more than 8 blastomeres is transferred into the uterus. So, to complete further development of the zygote or embryo. The entire operation is carried out under sterilized condition with proper medical care, and the mother will give birth to a normal child on the completion of gestation. So, the baby produced by the conceiving in a culture dish and nursing in the uterus is called test tube baby. Now, here you can see the types of artificial insemination. So, if the artificial insemination occur by the donor, it is called artificial insemination donor, that is AID, and it can create greater legal problems than the artificial insemination by husband, that is AIH. Now, the second, that is the gamete intra-fallopian transfer, that is GIFT. This method is used in the females who cannot produce ova but can provide suitable environment for fertilization and further development of the embryo in the oviduct. So here, in such cases, ovum from the donor female is surgically removed and is then introduced into the fallopian tube of such female. Such women then accept sperms from her husband during copulation. Now the third, that is intracytoplasmic sperm injection, that is ICSI. It is another specialized technique to form an embryo in the laboratory in which a sperm is directly injected into the ovum, placed in a nutrient broth. The zygote or early embryo is later transferred by GIFT in women. So in this picture you can see the GIFT, that is IVF of zygote, which is placed into the oviduct. The last, that is artificial insemination technique, that is AIT. This technique is used in those females whose husbands either is unable to inseminate the female or has very low sperm counts in the ejaculates. In such cases, the semen of the husband or donor is first collected and is artificially introduced into the female vagina or into the uterus. So in this picture you can see the intrauterine insemination, that is injection of sperm in the uterus. So all above mentioned techniques required extremely high precision handling by specialized professionals and expensive instrumentation. Such facilities are presently available only in few centers in the country and are available to only limited number of people. Emotional, religious, and social factors provide hurdles in the adaptation of these methods in our country. Now, the amniocentesis. So, the transabdominal aspirations of the fluid from the amniotic sac of the fetus is called amniocentesis. It is a prenatal diagnostic technique to determine the genetic disorders, if any, and sex of the fetus. The useful technique of the amniocentesis, unfortunately, is being misused to kill the normal female fetus, as it can help to detect the sex of the fetus also. So, what are the procedures of the amniocentesis? You can see here in the picture, that is the fetus bath in the amniotic fluid that fills the amniotic cavity. At an early stage of pregnancy, that is 14th or 15th week, the location of the fetus and the placenta is determined by sonography. Then a small amount of amniotic fluid is drawn by passing a special surgical syringe needle through the abdominal wall and the uterine wall into the amniotic sac containing amniotic fluid, and the cells that have sloughed from the fetus skin or respiratory tract into the fluid are sucked into the syringe. These cells can be examined for the chromosomal abnormalities such as Down syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome, Turner syndromes, and resulting from the non-disjunction during cell division. So, the cells can also be cultured, and is about a fortnight enough cells become available for test. So, the cells and fluid are also tested for the metabolic disorders such as phenylketonuria, sickle cell anemia, etc. And if it is confirmed that the child is likely to suffer from an incurable congenital defect, the parents will have a clinical justification for abortion. So these all are about the amniocentesis. Now, the chorionic villus sampling, that is CVS. Amniocentesis are possible without a chance of injury the fetus with the needle only after the 16th week of pregnancy. At this time, abortion is not safe. A new technique named CVS can be done during the 8th to 10th week of the pregnancy, when abortion is safe for the woman. So here in the picture you can see the chorionic villus sampling. What is this? So see here, in this case the doctor inserts a narrow flexible tube into the uterus through the mother's vagina and cervix, which is guided by ultrasound, and sucks a small amount of fetal tissue from the placenta. The cells of the chorionic villi are then used for karyotyping. Resulting of karyotyping and some biochemical test which is performed on sucked cells can be obtained within a few hours, and the CVS technique provides a mass of rapidly dividing fetal cells, thus facilitating the examination of genetic disorder. So what are the advantages of CVS? So it is done in lesser time and it can be performed early. So CVS technology is invasive. It therefore carries within it an inherent risk to both fetus and the mother. Now, here the techniques to obtain fetal tissues. So there are many techniques like the amniocentesis, chorionic villus sampling, cordocentesis, fetoscopy, fetal cells in maternal circulation, and the maternal serum makers. So these all are the techniques to obtain fetal tissues. Now in this picture you can see fetoscopy. What is fetoscopy? It is a technique which is used by the doctor to have a direct view of the fetus, and a needle thin tube containing a viewing scope is inserted through vagina and cervix into the uterus to directly view the fetus. Now, non-invasive techniques. Non-invasive techniques are available to determine the fetal condition. One of these conditions is the ultrasound imaging. So, another technique is based on the fact that a few fetal blood cells leak across the placenta into the mother's bloodstream, and a blood sample from the mother's provides enough fetal cells that can be tested for genetic disorders. Now, the fetal cells are identified with specific antibodies that bind to proteins on the surface of the fetal cells. So, this is the end of the lecture in which you know about all the problems and solutions related to the reproductive health. Now, the next video will be on the genetics, that is the principle of inheritance and variation. So from the next video we will start the new series, that is the genetics. So if you understand this video, like and share it, and if you like it, then subscribe to my channel, that is Anupma Biology Classes. And if you have any queries, any questions or any suggestions, you can ask in the comment section below. Thank you for the watching.